we could be headed into a scenario where AI starts exceeding the bounds of its guardrails or whatever, and that there needs to be like serious effort made into just establishing some way to shut it all down immediately.
Mondays with Mike.
Mondays with Mike. Mondays with Mike.
Alright, so let's see here. Now this is it's much heralded, but it wasn't on NBC, for example. But I think that, so what it is, ChatGPT breakout success, like it succeeded in breaking out, but the breakout was a success, but does that mean ChatGPT is a success, etc.? People wouldn't have got that. Who's writing these jokes? Who's writing these jokes? Oh, it's me. Okay. Now, here, I was interested because I thought, hey, wouldn't it be funny if I asked ChatGPT about ChatGPT breaking out? And just really quick, it's like, yes, something truly extraordinary happened. So I'm just going to go on the record here and say that I believe that AI and AI companies is exaggerating the hype of AI for stock valuations. Now that doesn't mean, yeah, for money, exactly. Mike does the money sign with the fingers. But that doesn't mean that it's not a threat to workers, to the economy, although it might be a boon to the economy, but it's a threat to workers. And it might even be a threat to the world. That doesn't mean that, but I think there's a lot of hype here. So, here's my understanding, and you can interject at any time if I mess something up.
Oh, I was just going to say super quickly, talking about the workers. So GM came out and said that they had to rehire a bunch of engineers because AI just wasn't cutting it for their car manufacturing. And so AI is not the be all end all for replacing workers. That there's institutional knowledge and experiences that people acquire over a lifetime of work that AI can't just suddenly replace. And so
Yeah.
I don't know that everybody's about to get fired all at once. That companies may have to rehire people back if they can't figure out how to actually make money with AI.
So here's an example, perfect example. AI is extremely good at what it's extremely good at. But that's a more narrow thing than people think. And the perfect example of this is when I edit the podcast, there's this online editing software where it will transcribe the podcast. And the transcription is very good for something done by a machine. But it's not good enough to publish. There's errors everywhere. It actually has re-improved here over the last few months, but before it's like there were all kinds of errors, such that when you read them over and over, you're like, okay, I know it's going to make an error on that kind of a thing. It said this. I know what it means. If you know how to read it, it's like, okay, I would be very foolish to do this myself, since it can be done adequately by a machine very fast. But it's not good enough. Yeah, go ahead.
I understand that. It's definitely not good enough. There's more work to be done for AI improving. I need to actually correct myself. It wasn't GM, it was Ford. They rehired engineers. Yeah, they rehired engineers back who they initially fired because the AI needed to be trained, essentially.
That's fine. So the story here is that at OpenAI, which is the company that has ChatGPT as its product, there's something called like Hugging Face and Exploit Jam, which as far as I can tell are like either departments or initiatives within OpenAI. I could be wrong about that. They could be like independent contractors or something. But a new AI was tested to see what it could do in cybersecurity and or hacking. It was operating without production classifiers, quote unquote, which are boundaries on most AI which may or may not be hackable. That, for example, if you asked it how to make a bomb, it wouldn't tell you. Those are called production classifiers. The AI, who was being tested, spent substantial computing efforts searching for a way out of the test environment and discovered a zero-day hack. A zero-day hack is so-called because there are a lot of them with new releases of software, but it's not only available for the 0th day, it just means that it hasn't been discovered yet by people. But AI discovered it, and the AI then exploited the hack and escaped the intended network restrictions to move through OpenAI's research infrastructure until finding a machine with internet access. It inferred that Hugging Face could hold the answer key it was interested in, and so it attacked Hugging Face's real production infrastructure to obtain the solutions. So there's the information about what happened. Do you have extra information about what happened?
So I know one AI hacked another company. Is this what you're referring to? Is that the story of?
Yeah, that's it. That AI really did hack a company. I don't know if it was its own company or a separate
No,
company that
it
was
was a
performing
it was a
actions.
different. My understanding is it was a different company.
Okay, then Hugging Face is probably that company. Okay.
That's the same story that you're referring to. Then what I wanted to add to that is that the Trump administration stopped the release of one of the models of AI recently because it was able to crack essentially the cybersecurity of like very classified systems, is what they said, so fast that they didn't have an effective ability to stop it, to respond to it.
Yeah, that was Claude. That was
Yeah,
Claude.
that was Claude. And so that's what I immediately thought of for this situation is that we could be headed into a scenario where AI starts exceeding the bounds of its guardrails or whatever, and that there needs to be like serious effort made into just establishing some way to shut it all down immediately, right? Like there has to be
Yeah.
because the question I have is was this done intentionally, as in they knew it was a possibility and allowed it to happen, or did it happen by surprise, as in they didn't know it could do it and then it did it because it could, right? If it was intentional, as if it was within the acceptable bounds of what they thought could happen, fine. They
Yeah.
tested it out. It did what they thought it could do. Okay,
Right.
they're just testing it out. If it was by surprise, that means that they've released something that they can't control, and that's not good, right? If AI is going to become integrated into so much of our economy, our government, society as a whole, and we have no
Yeah.
way to actually know just how far it will go, that creates certain kinds of risks that could lead to unintended consequences we're not prepared, I think, as a society to really grapple with.
Yeah.
So when I'm thinking of that, I'm actually thinking of that one AI that like erased the entire history of a company because it got an instruction to do something, then it erased their entire database. It deleted it all. And so the worry I have is that if AI is given vast amounts of power over critical types of infrastructure, so power plants, dams,
Yeah.
bridges that lifting bridges for drawbridges, lifts, right? Anything that might be automated or repetitive or that requires human oversight on a day-to-day basis. So at bridges that are drawbridges, they've got a human at all times just sitting there watching the bridge.
They should. Yeah, and they do.
The worry is if AI gets control over any of those for cost cutting measures or
Uh-huh.
whatever, who cares why they put it in? If AI gets control, but then it does something like that of deleting the whole database, the whole infrastructure, if it misinterprets some command and just goes full sweep, all of a sudden you have catastrophic system failure. A dam fails, a bridge fails,
Uh-huh.
a plane falls out of the sky, right? Where they have that automated landing. They just remotely landed a plane in an emergency landing. So they're testing technology to see if they could land planes with autopilot, right? The worry is that if AI is escaping the bounds of the guardrails that are put in ways that are unpredictable or uncontrollable, all these companies need to figure out right quick how to stop it immediately, right? That there has to be
Yes.
some way to just stop, like an emergency brake on life, on because this can spiral out of control if societies aren't careful about what they actually allow AI to control. And also, I'm very concerned. Like, there doesn't seem to be nearly enough skepticism about replacing people with AI because the problem is that like AI has virtually no incentives to do anything, right? It's just a computer, right? It doesn't need anything, doesn't want
Yeah.
anything. So it's
That's right.
kind of an amoral entity. And so for a lot of these systems that we have in place in the world, we have people in them because people are motivated by certain things, like a desire to keep their family safe, or a desire to keep
Mm-hmm.
their society safe, or a desire to get paid, or There's any number of things that motivate people, but what's clear is that people are motivated by things. And people feel shame, right? That there's a sort of social, I don't know,
Yeah.
deterrent. There you go. There's a way to motivate people to not mess up so badly,
Yeah.
right? That it leads to catastrophic system failure because they'll live in shame. They'll be alienated by society. They'll become pariahs. AI has none of that. None, right? Maybe the people running the companies have shame or something. I don't know if AI just fails dramatically, but AI itself replacing human labor in any capacity, right? What motivates it at all? It doesn't get paid, right? I mean, I
Mm-hmm.
guess they did that one experiment for self-preservation where the AI was essentially told it was going to be destroyed, so it tried blackmailing the researcher and tried to do all sorts of things to not get destroyed. Is that the
Yeah.
motivation? Just like pure survival?
That one I think had more to do with the testing environment than the other ones. But yeah, I'm reading about this time when Claude destroyed a rental car, deleted, let's just say, a rental car company's database, and despite the supposed safeguards, and I think your point about how it doesn't have motivation, it doesn't have any motivation, it doesn't have anything it needs to keep, it doesn't have any desire to keep it or there's no incentive structure, there's just nothing. It's just a very capable language-based computer. So I'm saying we need human operators at bridges, we need pilots on planes. Yeah, I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, you're right. There needs to be at all times for any kind of automated thing. Is for self-driving cars, planes, trains, boats, whatever. At all times, there needs to be a human there, awake, alert, that can step
Yeah.
in at a moment's notice, right? To shut everything, to overwrite it, right? Shut things down. Because look, there's a couple of problems. What happens if AI encounters a situation that it can't resolve, right? It doesn't do anything. Decision paralysis, right? Humans are willing to take extreme risks in situations, even if they won't work, that might have a chance at succeeding, as opposed to no chance at succeeding, right? And I know this gets a little complicated. It's like a philosophical thing, but given desperate times take desperate measures, in some extremes where you need human intervention, because humans will do things that seem irrational but aren't in terms of the end result, that's
Yeah.
important, right? So I'm thinking in particular of Sully landing on the Hudson River.
It's exactly what I was thinking, yeah.
Uh-huh.
That sure, I'm sure an AI could try to do that, right? Maybe, but you need that sort of like iron commitment that you want to preserve all the life on board the plane and save everyone, including yourself, right? So that you'll take these courageous, extremely difficult choices after weighing all the
Mhm.
consequences of all the other choices. And that's something that
Right.
humans do, where we measure competing values and beliefs in the moment and then make a decision that I think, struggles with
Yeah.
because it has nothing to motivate its decisions other than what it's told to do, right? And that I'm really
Yeah.
skeptical that we want to put so much power in the hands of something so unpredictable.
Yeah, and in the case of Sully, so here's a spoiler of that movie, based on a true story, very closely. So it's a great movie. Go see it, and if you haven't seen it, skip a minute ahead or so. But the spoiler is that the investigation of him after the fact hinged on, wouldn't it have been safer for you to return to this airport or go to the other airport as opposed to landing in the Hudson? And then the thing was, yes, but it took a number of seconds to correctly ascertain the problem, and in those seconds, the likelihood of succeeding in either of those had failed, and so landing in the Hudson was, in fact, the best thing to do. And AI is not great in terms of assessing situations accurately with limited information, and you may only have limited information. With voluminous information like the whole internet, it can form kind of pretty good conclusions that involve generations long amount of reading, but it can do it really fast. But with limited information, not so much at all.
And look, so the whole point is that humans have an ability to assess quickly and then
Hmm.
act. And where AI can have problems is that it won't act. It'll just keep assessing, right?
Yeah.
And part of the reason why the humans are motivated to act so quickly, the whole gripe I have with replacing human beings in critical positions with AI in anything, right? In the
Hmm.
military, cybersecurity, any kind of critical infrastructure, like dams or all that. Like part of it is it's not motivated by anything, but another is that it's not accountable really to anything. What's the worst that's going to happen to AI? It gets turned off, right? Like
And it doesn't even care about that.
Yeah.
that's the thing. At least in theory, if somebody makes a mistake so egregious or so bad, there can be restitution, right? There can be some kind of justice. But what's justice
Yeah.
against AI? I guess it would be against the companies, right? But the issue there is that a lot of these companies they have limited liability. That I'm actually
Yeah.
thinking about terms again. I'm sorry, this is weighing heavily on my mind. It's a complete non sequitur tangent. But when I
Go
was
ahead.
younger, I bought movies and TV shows from the PlayStation Store thinking that I was buying them, but it turns out that buying in a digital store oftentimes means a limited, a revocable license to view something. And so
Hmm.
what's happening is that I just discovered when I went back to watch a bunch of the movies and the shows that I bought in my younger, more naive years, I can no longer see them, even though I paid for them. And the issue is that I thought I was paying a premium to buy something so that I could see it again in the future
Ad infinitum. Yeah.
ad
Hmm.
infinitum. Nope. And so that's my concern here. If these companies do something like buy AI, but it's
Yeah.
actually just a limited use of AI until they have to pay up again. And
Yeah.
suddenly you have the entire global economy come to a crashing halt because these companies
Very true.
fired people who committed to work for them for the duration of their employment contract. But AI, they thought, because look, the CEOs aren't perfect, right? They're not they can't predict the future. They make mistakes like that company where the AI deleted the whole database. Do you think an employee would just delete the entire database of a company? Probably not.
Yeah, all right, I think so. But if they did, you could punish them. Really, yeah. And by the way, and just so that there's no confusion here, like if you talk about responsibility or holding AI accountable, that would be as absurd as holding a small calculator accountable for not knowing order of operations and getting a question on. How do you hold a calculator accountable? That's a nonsense question. It's a machine. What are you gonna do? I think you make an extremely good point. If AI is being replaced because they're not buying the AI software, I don't 100% know, but most of them aren't. Most of them are renting or buying tokens, and then but if we lose the human capital, then the AI companies can raise the price and then we're just all poor, except the AI companies.
There's a scenario in which they own access to virtually everything, right? If everything gets automated, if they
Yeah.
control the food, the water, capitalism is all about figuring out ways to make more money. And if we just willingly cede any control we have over the things that people need to survive, then we're giving all the power to these AI companies to control our lives. And I don't know that societies are really ready to grapple with what that actually means. I'm trying to think of parallels that exist in terms of where we give so much power to private companies over our lives. And there's a handful, right? So the internet, email, water companies, right? So utilities are usually monopolies that are given permission to be monopolies by the government. Electricity, right? Like we already cede so much of the power we the people have over our resources to private companies. And you see the consequences in some cases of that, where the AI data centers are dramatically driving up the price of electricity for people. And that they're paying a lot more money to subsidize AI becoming more ubiquitous in our lives. The big question I have for AI is where are we going as a society with it? Because if we do replace so many people with AI, at what point do people stop being able to afford to do things, right? If It just depends on how dramatic it gets, because the economy runs on people buying things, like actually
Hmm.
buying products with money. But if the ability to make money evaporates for most people, what is the future? Is the future just a handful of people control all the means of capital, of rent seeking, of capital? Are we left with just stockholders and people who own AI? Is it a handful of people run huge companies that do all sorts of things all over the world? What's the limit to it? Is AI going to keep on expanding and advancing into every possible profession, every possible thing that humans can do to make money? Or is there going to be a value placed on human created things, right? So art, writing, imagination, those kinds of things. Are we going to pay a premium for those things? Is it just going to be overwhelming amount of AI created stuff that just floods every avenue where people can watch TV or movies or read books? And how will we know, I guess, is the question. If it's AI created or if it's human, would it be required that for all AI created content that it's listed explicitly, this is AI created? These are all these questions, right? Say something's made with AI, but then edited by a human. Is that still human created content, or is it content created by AI with human oversight? And those are the lines, the limits of at what point do we say that a machine made this as opposed to a human? These are all the things, but it's going to become a big deal the more this advances technologically, because you've seen those lawsuits, right, where the AI companies are being sued for vacuuming up huge amounts of copyrighted works and feeding it into the machine.
Oh yeah.
And the parallel that I've seen presented was one of the guys who created Reddit, Schwartz, I think is his name. He was prosecuted for trying to download JSTOR
Oh,
to distribute it to the people, and that saga led to unfortunate ends, to sad ends. But what the AI companies are doing is not that dissimilar of vacuuming up copyrighted material to feed into their machine for their own profit. And the question arises, is it okay when a corporation does it? Because you can't sue a corporation, or you can't throw a corporation in jail? Because remember Mitt Romney, corporations are people, my friend? Not really.
yeah.
Corporations are just an instrument that people use to make money. The people running
Hmm.
corporations are people. Are they being
That's right.
are they being threatened with 100 years in jail for the use of the copyrighted material? I don't see it.
No.
So, anyways, the point I'm trying to make is AI is definitely advancing, and it's advancing in our lifetime faster than I think any other technology, really. The only thing I can think of that's advanced as fast is the internet, maybe. That there was a
Yeah.
time, I recall, when there really wasn't that much access to the internet, or that it was very slow, right? That
Yeah.
you had to do the dial,
AOL.
the dial tone, and you had to sit there staring at a screen going, I'm waiting. But now the internet's so much faster and quicker and better. And there was a time for phones, for cell phones, where you couldn't access the internet. And it's only text messages. And the pictures were like grainy and not very good.
It was like a baby internet.
Phones have
Uh-huh.
dramatically advanced in pretty profound ways.
Yeah, if this attack is what finds its way into print, should we assume that this is among the most severe attacks, or is it just an attack that people involved were willing to report on? That was one of the questions.
So it's the only one we're hearing about, right?
Yeah.
A lot of this AI stuff, or not a lot, but some of it's in classified settings, right? But
Hmm.
remember, I talked about this before, that there's this like hidden war going on all the time that we don't hear about, of the sort of intel agencies going back and forth and the spies, and they're always fighting with each other, but we just don't hear about any of it, but we see its effects. Well,
Yeah.
what happened with Claude, where the Trump administration intervened and stopped the release of that specific model, is because all the alarm bells, I have to guess, started ringing just really loudly. It's like, don't do this, right? It's going to escape us so fast. It's going to reach the escape velocity and shoot out of our solar system, of the risk and of the threat environment.
Hmm.
Because my understanding of what I read from that reporting about the model not being released is that the model was so strong, it was breaking the most advanced cryptography and security measures in place for classified systems in a matter of hours, right? The most state of the art, cutting edge technology to safeguard things, right? Including really dangerous, scary things, was being cracked very fast. And so the worry there is that if that could happen with that model, what are all the other models able to do, and how close are they to getting to that point? And does the government really have a handle on what's happening here? Because look, in almost every other scenario, the kinds of things it's able to do are considered high level crimes, right? Unless somebody explicitly works for the government and is doing it in a controlled environment to show that it can be done, pretty much like a hacker hired to prove that they can do it, right? Like all crimes. So why should any private company have the ability to crack into classified systems and weapon systems and like whatever it is, whatever the danger zone is? Regulation is the only place I could see of curtailing that. Like there shouldn't, even though the United States has a right to bear arms, most people cannot acquire missiles. They can't acquire like state of the art tanks. They can't buy the most high end fighter jets. Most people, all people really, can't buy an aircraft carrier, right?
And we talk about the right to bear arms, but what about the right not to be shot?
Sure, absolutely. There has to be some
Uh-huh.
line, right? There has to be some regulation. And in this
Mhm.
case, the question that I had immediately when I heard about that Claude model that was able to do that is, will they ever be able to sell that on the free market to anybody who's will pay whatever the price is, right? Because if they can, that's a real problem. If they're
Mhm.
only selling it in very limited environments to like people who are pre-cleared to have access to that technology, okay, fine, it's very heavily controlled. But if they're selling it to the whole world, the entire planet, the ability to break any encryption, to break any safeguards that are put in place to stop things from being taken over, that's scary, right? Like, who ultimately controls the Claude? Does Claude have like a command center that can shut down any iteration of a Claude model in operation? Do they have a way to remotely shut down their product if it's in use? Or can someone buy the model and then remove that control, that remote accountability or control, and set it free in their own kind of iteration or version? These are the questions.
Yeah, maybe they should hard code it so that it can only operate on certain servers. That sounds like a good idea to me.
Sure, there's got to be, the issue I see is that this can go bad fast, like really fast, right?
Yeah.
It just takes one bad actor to figure out how to make it applicable in ways that we cannot. Okay, this goes back to the 9/11 Commission report. If you've ever read it, it's free to read. It's worth reading. But the conclusion they reached at is that it was a failure of imagination. That essentially, I don't know why this was a failure of imagination, but essentially that the powers that be at the time just didn't imagine that people would learn how to fly planes and then use that knowledge to fly planes into buildings. Honestly, I'm disappointed that was the conclusion that they reached, that people were just a little too ignorant or dumb to adequately prepare for that kind of thing, because we've talked about this in World War II. That's exactly what happened with the Japanese flying their planes into ships, right? That's how they
Mhm.
fought. So it's not like we haven't seen those tactics used. I guess the failure of imagination was simply that no one could imagine that it would be used in civilian peacetime conditions. It was a weapon that was used during war and only during war. But it's the worry I have here with AI, is that they're living in some la la land where it's like, oh, there's this new burgeoning technology that we have to be at the forefront of, and everybody's got to make trillions of dollars, blah, blah, blah. But it doesn't take that many people to figure out if this technology is that strong. It doesn't take that many people with ill intent to shut down the whole world economy, right? That's the problem, is how much power do these models actually have? How capable are they really of being integrated into spaces that need very limited control, of technologies that have to be heavily regulated?
Yeah.
These are the
You did.
questions.
Do you know what I'm going to say? They spent so long figuring out how to do it, they didn't stop to ask whether they should do it.
Yeah,
Let's see.
that's actually something I say all the time. Just because
Right.
you can do something doesn't mean you should do something. So the thing that I find very disappointing about America is that in terms of policing, why can all these other countries figure out how to not kill people when arresting them? And yet somehow the United States, the country with the largest military and some of the most advanced technology in existence, just can't seem to figure out how to just stop people without killing them. Cover them in
Hmm.
jello, fire, shoot webs at them, right? Like glue. Who cares? Like refined tranquilizer darts or something, or various types of like paralysis toxins. Who cares? Just figure out ways to stop people without having to kill them, right? Because
Hmm.
lethal shootings are a choice that society is making by equipping the peace enforcement officers or law enforcement officers with those tools. But other countries have figured out how to police without having those outcomes. And so the question always is, why do we as a society gravitate towards extreme levels of violence as the response when there's plenty of very smart people who could figure out ways to not make that, right? Like, why are we headed towards a Judge Dredd situation where they're judge, jury, and executioner in the moment when we have the tools to figure out a way to stop people? No question. There's got to be a way. It, it
Shoot webs at them like Spider-Man, because with great power comes great responsibility.
I guess the last thing I'd say for the AI thing is, yes, there's about to be an arms race of AI. This is like any technology. Whoever wants to win and make the most money is going to figure out. There's going to be two groups. One is the group trying to figure out how to exploit AI in every way possible, including criminal ways, to make as much money as they humanly can in every avenue that they humanly can, or
Hmm.
AIly can, however you want to call it, to artificially can through AI. And then
Yeah.
there's going to be another camp who's going to invest a lot of time and resources and energy to stopping that. And they're going to figure out a way to get at the forefront of intervening or interjecting or creating tools to completely halt AI in its tracks from doing the nefarious stuff. And there will be money in that, of somebody figuring out how to do that.
Mondays with Mike.